Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky will have been, as we said, a 245-day mission on the International Space Station, in which they spend 3,920 orbits of the Earth, a journey of almost 104 million statute miles. Flight control team is monitoring systems on the Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft. Countdown to control in Houston, ticking backward toward the engine firing of the Soyuz vehicle. A 4-minute, 42-second retrograde firing that will slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its high-speed return back to Earth. That engine firing, the deorbit burn, is scheduled just 35 minutes and 18 seconds from now. The deorbit burn will begin at 10:09 and 46 seconds p.m. Central Time, 11:09 and 46 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Preliminary. Several hours ago, the departing crew members, NASA's Jonny Kim and Roscosmos cosmonauts Alexei Zabritsky and Sergei Ryzhikov, had an opportunity to say some farewell words from the Zvezda service module, surrounded by their remaining crew members who are still on board the International Space Station, led by NASA astronaut Mike Fink, the new station commander, along with NASA astronauts Zena Cardman and Chris Williams, Kimiya Yui of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Kud-Sverchkov, Sergei Mikheyev, and Oleg Platonov. The crew members had an opportunity to gather in the Prashal module to say their final farewells before Ryzhikov, Zabritsky, and Kim floated through the hatchway, making their way inside the Soyuz spacecraft. Once they entered the Soyuz spacecraft, the hatch was closed at about 4:30 p.m. Central Time on the Soyuz side, as Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky began their procedures to conduct leak checks on that side of the docking interface between Soyuz and the Prashal module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. Once the hatch was closed and those leak checks were conducted and proved an airtight seal at the docking interface, the three departing crew members donned their Sokol launch and entry suits and conducted leak checks on the suits themselves, as well as communications checks with the Russian flight control team in Korolyov. Sergei Ryzhikov, the veteran Soyuz commander who is strapped into the center seat of the three-section Soyuz spacecraft in the descent module, has used the call sign Favore, that is named after a mountain range in Russia. He will be communicating during the descent of the Soyuz back to the landing site in Kazakhstan, talking back and forth with the Russian flight controllers as long as there is communications capability between the spacecraft and the Russian control center. At some point shortly after the deorbit burn, the Soyuz will pass out of communications range, reliable communications range of the control center that is normal at a distance of some 128 kilometers. But Ryzhikov already has been instructed to continue talking and providing updates on the condition of the crew, the performance of the spacecraft as they make their way towards the landing site in Kazakhstan to the southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan. Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky, upon touchdown, will have completed 245 days in space, 3,920 orbits of the Earth, a mission spanning 104 million statute miles. Of course, this wraps up the first flight into space for both Kim and Zabritsky. For Ryzhikov, he is concluding his third flight into space and a total of 603 days away from the planet, good for 13th place on the all-time endurance list. We are 30 minutes away from the deorbit burn. This is an animation that shows the activities of the 4-minute, 42-second retrograde firing to enable the Soyuz to drop out of orbit. About 24 minutes after the deorbit burn is complete, the separation of the modules pyrotechnically will discard the instrumentation and propulsion module and the orbital module, leaving only the descent module flying in the direction of travel toward the landing site with its heat shield repelling temperatures building up to about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. About 15 minutes before landing, the parachute deployment sequence will initiate. First, a drogue chute, followed by the main parachute, the large orange and white parachute you're accustomed to seeing. Just a few seconds before touchdown, the Soyuz will fire its soft landing thrusters. Just a few feet above the ground, a final braking maneuver, and the Soyuz MS-27 will be home. The helicopters, the Russian Mi-8 helicopters belonging to the Rosaviatsa Search and Recovery Forces, in which there are half a dozen NASA personnel embedded in the recovery team operating this evening and actually Tuesday morning now in Kazakhstan. They will be in the Russian Mi-8 helicopters right around the time of the deorbit burn, beginning to make their way towards the landing site. It is choreographed specifically so that they arrive at the landing site to greet the Soyuz under its chute, flying in a racetrack pattern. One by one after touchdown, the helicopters will land. They will the personnel will begin to make their way towards the spacecraft to begin the process of extracting the crew, placing them on 3 chairs nearby their capsule. It'll be quite cold at the landing site, I suspect, based on previous activities in Kazakhstan, that they will not keep the crew out in that cold weather for very long before they're carried in those chairs into a nearby inflatable medical tent to get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits and to get into more comfortable clothing. They will be brought to 3 awaiting helicopters, 1 for each crew member, and flown about 2 hours back from the landing site to the main staging city to the northeast in Karaganda, where a NASA Gulfstream jet and a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center jet are waiting. The NASA jet to take Kim back to the Johnson Space Center, the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center jet to take Ryzhikov and Zabritsky back to their training base in Star City, Russia, outside of Moscow. With the undocking of the Soyuz, the undocking of the Soyuz MS-27 occurred at 7:41 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time, 8:41 and 30 seconds p.m. Eastern Time from the Prishal module on the Earth-facing port of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. The docking was flawless. About a minute and a half after the undocking, the first of two separation burns by the Soyuz thrusters was conducted. First an 8-second burn, followed about a minute and a half later by a 15-second burn that accelerated the Soyuz separation rate away from the International Space Station, ultimately placing it at a distance of about 41 kilometers away from the station where it currently resides, as we stand by for the initiation of the deorbit burn just 26.5 minutes from now. Again, the undocking occurring at 7:41 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time, 8:41 and 30 seconds p.m. Eastern Time, as the Soyuz and the International Space Station flew 262 statute miles over eastern Mongolia. At the time of undocking, Expedition 73, the increment 73 on the International Space Station, for which Ryzhikov was commander for most of its time, that came to an end officially, and Expedition 74 began. There's the crew now on board the station. On the upper left-hand corner, the new station commander, NASA's Mike Fink, joined in the top row by NASA's Zena Cardman, Kimiya Yui of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and Oleg Platonov of Roscosmos. Those four will be coming back to Earth in a couple of months on a SpaceX Dragon vehicle. And on the bottom, the newly arrived Soyuz crew of Soyuz MS-28, Roscosmos' Sergei Kud-Sverchkov, NASA's Chris Williams in the center, and Roscosmos' Sergei Mikheyev on the lower right-hand corner. So Expedition 74 now formally underway on the International Space Station.
Включение СКД 25 минут, на борту порядок.
25 minutes to SKD burn. Everything is fine on board. Copy all, por favor.
Once again, if you're just joining us, we are just about 23 minutes and 40 seconds away from the engine firing on the Soyuz vehicle, the deorbit burn that will begin the journey home from orbit for NASA's Jonny Kim and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky. The trio launched on the Soyuz MS-27 from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan back on April 8th, arriving for their docking to the Prishal module just about 3 hours and 15 minutes later, a two-orbit rendezvous profile, which is customary these days. And now, with their 245-day mission drawing to a close, we are set for the final act in this space mission that will see them complete the deorbit burn. Once again, about 24 minutes after the completion of that retrograde braking maneuver, once they are well away from low Earth orbit, they will have the separation of modules, the pyrotechnic separation of the three sections of the Soyuz vehicle. The instrumentation and propulsion module, which is the lower section, and the orbital module, which is the upper section, they will separate from the descent module. That's the center section that the crew is strapped into their seats in, with Kim in the far right seat as board engineer number 2, Ryzhikov, the Soyuz commander, in the center seat, and to his left is Alexei Zabritsky, board engineer number 1. The only portion of the Soyuz that survives the module separation and returns to Earth is, of course, that descent module with the heat shield facing the direction of travel to repel the temperatures that will build up around the spacecraft of some 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. 3 minutes after the module separation, the Soyuz will reach the first traces of Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of some 425,000 feet. That will be at 10:41 p.m. Central Time, 11:41 p.m. Eastern Time. The 3 crew members will begin to feel the first effects of Earth's gravity in over 8 months at that point. Just about a minute and a half after entry interface is the beginning of the buildup of plasma around the spacecraft. This is the ionization effect that creates essentially a fireball, with the heat shield repelling those high temperatures as it barrels toward the landing site in Kazakhstan. That plasma regime lasts for about 5 minutes in duration. We do expect to have choppy and sometimes intermittent communications capability between the Russian flight control team in Korolyov and the crew on board the Soyuz spacecraft. First, because of the distance, the geometric distance between the Soyuz and the International Space Station antennas, and then ultimately because of the heat buildup, that heat plasma buildup around the spacecraft itself. So if we don't hear from the crew, there's no cause for concern. This is typical, but to be expected, intermittent communications until the spacecraft exits that plasma regime, when maximum G loads of about 4 to 5 Gs build up against the crew just prior to the command to open the parachutes. Once the vehicle is within the neighborhood of the landing site, both voice and telemetry will be relayed through an airborne Antonov 26 spacecraft that is essentially a flying relay station, sending both data and voice back to the Russian flight control team outside of Moscow.
Moscow, Favore, less than 20 minutes to escape burn, and 5 minutes to transitioning to orbital memory. Copy all, Favore. That's correct.
You will hear Ryzhikov calling out the duration of the deorbit burn for its 4 minutes and 42 seconds expected duration, plus chamber pressures. He will be encouraged by the Russian flight control team to continue to report on the condition of the crew and how the vehicle is behaving as it makes its way toward entry interface with its guidance honed in on the landing site 91 miles to the southeast of Zhezkazgan. Landing again scheduled at 11:03 and 55 seconds p.m. Central Time, 12:03 and 55 seconds a.m. Eastern Time Tuesday morning. That will be 10:03 and 10:03 and 55 seconds a.m. Kazakhstan time, about 2 hours and 6 minutes after sunrise. In our previous broadcast, I had an opportunity to explain that parachute deployment sequence that occurs about 15 minutes before touchdown. It's probably worthwhile, while we have a moment here, to recap that once again. For the Soyuz spacecraft, the parachute deployment sequence is triggered by a barometric pressure sensor at an altitude of 41,000 feet. At this point, the main parachute cover is jettisoned by pyros and springs, pulling out two extraction chutes, which in turn pulls out the drogue chute. That in turn pulls out the main chute. This all takes about 20 seconds to occur. Then, at an altitude of 21,300 feet, another barometric pressure sensor starts a timer, triggering most of the remaining events in the landing sequence. At an altitude of just 18,000 feet, commands are issued to jettison the heat shield, inhibit the entry thrusters, and to open valves to vent all the hydrogen peroxide fuel for the entry thrusters and oxygen in the life support system tank. On previous Soyuz landings, when we've had clear visibility, you've seen a white vapor emanating from the Soyuz spacecraft. That is normal. I'm not sure we'll see it tonight because of the overcast skies at the landing site. But that white vapor is a combination of hydrogen peroxide and oxygen venting into the air. The purpose of this is to safe the vehicle for landing. The Rosaviatsa search and recovery teams do not want hazardous gases to remain in those tanks when the soft landing thrusters fire just a second or two before touchdown, and the vehicle has executed one final braking maneuver. This way, the ground support team can approach the vehicle immediately after touchdown without any hazardous materials to contend with as they began the process of extracting the crew from the descent module itself. Less than 16 minutes now from the issuance of the command for the beginning of the deorbit burn, which will begin the final leg of the journey home for Jonny Kim, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zabritsky. Ryzhikov and Zabritsky had an opportunity to conduct two spacewalks during Expedition 73, totaling 13 hours and 3 minutes. Kim spent his 8 months on orbit heavily into scientific research on the station. These three, along with their crewmates, had an opportunity also to commemorate the 25th anniversary of a permanent human occupancy on board the International Space Station that began on November 2nd, 2000, with the arrival on board of Expedition 1, the commander then, Bill Shepard, along with Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Krikalev and Yuri Gidzenko. The returning crew also saw the arrival of 9 visiting vehicles and the departure of 6 visiting vehicles during their 245 days on board the orbital outpost.
500, rises sensor indicator is not lit. You will need to activate BIOS 2 at 06:59:46. And don't forget to deactivate Beta 1 on BO switch panel. And that time is 07:04:37. Okay. Activating
Although tonight's operation is being conducted by the Russian flight controllers half a world away at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow, here in Mission Control in Houston, the International Space Station Flight Control Team on duty, as they are 24/7, 365, tonight led by Flight Director Heidi Brewer in the middle of your screen. At the bottom of your screen to her left is Flight Director Garrett Hain. And at the top of your screen to Brewer's right is veteran astronaut Luca Parmitano of the European Space Agency, a Soyuz veteran in his own right. The Russian flight control team reports that all of the Soyuz systems are in excellent shape. As we are just about 12.5 minutes away from the initiation of that deorbit burn. Once again, this is a retrograde braking maneuver of 4 minutes and 42 seconds in duration to slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its 54-minute ride back into the Earth's atmosphere and a parachute-assisted landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan, 91 miles to the southeast of the forward staging city of Zhezkazgan. Light snow reported in the area, temperatures around 21 degrees Fahrenheit. We're now just 11 minutes away from the initiation of the deorbit burn. All quiet here in Mission Control in Houston. All quiet on the loops between the Russian flight controllers and the Soyuz spacecraft. Again, just for situational awareness, you'll be hearing the call sign Favore in the communications between the flight controllers in Korolyov and Sergei Ryzhikov, the Soyuz commander. That is the call sign selected by Ryzhikov. All Soyuz commanders select a call sign for their spacecraft that is used from launch to docking, and then reversely from undocking to landing.
Moscow
Favore at 06:59:46. We have VP1 turned on. Copy. VP1 is on. That's going to be pilot site. And your next reference point will be TIG -8. Copy.
At the landing site this evening, there are 6 Russian Mi-8 helicopters that will be airborne from the airfield in Zhezkazgan right around the time of the deorbit burn, some 9 minutes from now, to be joined by an Antonov 26 fixed-wing aircraft. That is the flying command and control center that will relay telemetry and voice from the Soyuz back to the Russian Mission Control Center as the Soyuz approaches the landing site. There are also 4 all-terrain vehicles in play that are always used for support of recovery personnel. Further to the southwest, near the Baikonur Cosmodrome at the Kryiny airfield, there are 2 Russian Mi-8 helicopters as well, in the highly unlikely event that the Soyuz would move into a ballistic trajectory, meaning a technical problem that would trigger a ballistic landing, a shortfall, if you will, of some 400 kilometers short of the landing site itself.
Confirm.
However, that is, of course, not expected this evening. We expect an on-time arrival of the 3 crew members at the nominal landing site just to the southeast of the town of Jezkazgan.
TIG.
Т-3 подготовили.
We have A3 ready, and we are sending the command. All right, TSABO is off. Correction, test 3. Favore, MCC Moscow. Continue working for page 56. The next reference point is going to be TIG minus 1 minute. Copy, we're standing by. Favore, just as an FYI, even if we do not respond, please provide a running commentary. Copy.
Now approaching the 5.5-minute mark until the start of the deorbit burn, and as you just heard, a reminder to Sergei Ryzhikov, the Soyuz commander, to provide running commentary, not just during the deorbit burn. You'll hear him calling off the times and chamber pressure on the Soyuz engine, but also a running commentary of the condition of the vehicle during its descent back in the Earth's atmosphere for as long as communications are available. About 10 seconds after the completion of the deorbit burn, the upper section of the Soyuz, that's the bulbous orbital module section, will be automatically depressurized to vacuum. That sets the stage for the separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz. That is scheduled at 10:38 and 4 seconds p.m. Central Time, 11:38 and 4 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. On board the International Space Station, the newly comprised Expedition 74 crew, the commander, NASA's Mike Fink, along with NASA crew members Zena Cardman and Chris Williams, Kimiya Yui of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and cosmonauts Sergei Kud-Sverchkov, Sergei Mikheyev, and Oleg Platonov of Roscosmos are in their pre-sleep period. They have been following the communications of the departure of their 3 colleagues, Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky, following them toward their landing in Kazakhstan that is scheduled at 11:03 and 55 seconds p.m. Central Time.
Favore, please provide a running commentary.
Now just 3 minutes away from the start of the deorbit burn. This is Mission Control Houston. If you're just joining us, we're 2 minutes away from the deorbit burn, the retrograde engine firing by the Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft to begin the journey home for NASA's Jonny Kim and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky. Everything is in readiness for the start of the burn that will last 4 minutes and 42 seconds in duration. Just 1 minute away now from the deorbit burn and the start of the journey home for Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky.
The stabilization mode command has been prepped. We're standing by. And we're sending the J3 command. Escada cover.
The Soyuz engine cover has been opened.
Views confirmed.
35 seconds from the start of the burn.
For Escada operation confirmed. Copy. Please monitor it on displays maneuver and control. Copy. On info 1 and
15 seconds till the burn.
And we are standing by for the TIG. TIG activation confirmed.
And the deorbit burn is confirmed and underway.
4.3 in 10 seconds. 20 seconds. Unintelligible 9. Is the delta? 30 seconds.
30 seconds into the burn, everything looks good.
Burn.
This will slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second, allowing it ultimately to slip out of orbit.
Consumption is nominal.
One minute now into the 4-minute, 42-second burn.
1 minute into the burn, and probe consumption is nominal, 65. KDU parameters are nominal. Copy.
"90 seconds into the burn, everything looking good.
1 minute, 30 seconds. Burn is 40, and acceleration is 0.45. Prop consumption is nominal. Continue monitoring. Two minutes. Into TIG, 0.46 is the delta V, 56, and 130 is for the prop consumption, and the parameters are all nominal.
Now halfway through the burn, chamber pressure, fuel consumption, all looking good.
Two minutes into TIG, 66, 68, and parameters are all nominal. We are past.
Проходим Дельта В спусковой 1.
All right, we are past Delta V.
3 минуты.
Passing 3 minutes into the burn, about another minute and 42 seconds left.
82 meters. Parameters are all nominal. Prop consumption is also nominal.
At Kazakhstan, the forward landing staging site, the Rosaviatsa search and recovery helicopters, the Russian Mi-8s, have their rotors spinning, ready to take off in sequential fashion for the landing site. It's about a 30-minute ride.
For the burn, 0.46 is a Delta V, and prop consumption is 230.
1 minute left in the burn.
All right, we have less than 1 minute till GK command, main engine cutoff command. 4 minutes into the burn. 0.46 is the Delta V. 256 is the prop consumption. All parameters are nominal.
4 minutes, 20 seconds into the burn. And we're standing by for the completion of the burn.
We're standing by for the main engine cutoff command in 10 seconds. Main engine cutoff command.
And we have engine shutdown, a perfect deorbit burn.
Off, SDBO is open.
The proper change in velocity was achieved. So Jonny Kim, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zabritsky are heading home for a landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan.
190 is stable. Moscow, how copy? The burn was nominal. Main engine cut off on time. Favore, we copy all. Get ready for the separation. Work for page 62.
So with the completion of the deorbit burn, next up on the timeline will be the pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz vehicle. That is expected about 23 minutes from now at 10:38 and 4 seconds p.m. Central Time, 11:38 and 4 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. And with the completion of the burn, the depressurization of the upper section of the Soyuz, the orbital module, is underway, setting the stage for that module separation event.
Separation confirmed. Do you have the countdown till separation?
We're about 9 minutes away from the point at which the Soyuz will be right on the edge of choppy communications with the Russian flight control team that you see there in this balcony view from the Russian control center outside of Moscow. The far range of reliable communications is about 128 kilometers. The Rosaviat's search and recovery forces will be airborne momentarily from the Zhezkazgan airfield in Russian Mi-8 helicopters for about a 30-minute transit to the landing site, arriving in sequential fashion in a racetrack oval-shaped pattern around the landing site itself, awaiting the arrival of the Soyuz under its large orange and white main parachute. And reports from Zhezkazgan now indicate that the first of the helicopters are in fact airborne toward the landing site with the nominal completion of the deorbit burn. We expect overcast skies once we have video from the landing site. Earlier this evening, there were reports of some light snow flurries. The temperature at the landing site, 21 degrees Fahrenheit. We're about 43 minutes away from our expected landing time of 11:03 and 55 seconds p.m. Central Time. Everything is in readiness at the landing site. The Russian Mi-8 helicopters are airborne, heading for that point, some 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan. After touchdown, the helicopters will land in sequential fashion and begin the process of approaching the vehicle and extracting the crew, placing them in 3 chairs outside of the capsule. They'll be bundled up against the chilly temperatures, albeit desiring fresh air after 245 days in space. They'll be brought into a nearby inflatable medical tent and will be helped out of their Sokol launch and entry suits into more comfortable clothing. They'll receive initial medical tests and then brought back out to board 3 helicopters, 1 for each crew member, for a 2-hour flight back to the prime staging city of Karaganda, Kazakhstan. Jonny Kim will board a NASA jet for a flight back to the Johnson Space Center, while Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky board a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center jet to fly back to their training base and their home in Star City, Russia, outside of Moscow. This is Mission Control, Houston. We are beyond the point of the deorbit burn that was nominal, a 4-minute, 42-second retrograde braking maneuver, enabling the Soyuz to begin its trek out of low Earth orbit back through the Earth's atmosphere toward its landing site 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Kazakhstan. We're about 39 minutes away from our anticipated touchdown of the Soyuz, bringing Jonny Kim, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zabritsky home after 245 days in space and a journey of almost 104 million statute miles. That is the equivalent of about 208 round trips to the moon. We are at the point where we expected communications either to be very ratty or to drop out altogether. This is typical. We should be regaining communications sporadically up until the time of entry interface and the entry into the plasma regime, where the peak heating around the spacecraft creates an ionization effect that would prevent any communications until the Soyuz descends further out of the upper regions of the Earth's atmosphere and regains communications with the Antonov 26 fixed-wing aircraft in the vicinity of the landing site.
Moscow, everything is fine on board. We have less than 13 minutes left till unintelligible, and we are till separation, and we are going to be closing devices in about 5 minutes. Copy, favore. 12 minutes till separation. Station, how do you copy, favore? Go ahead, favore. Sergei, we are doing fine on board. We are done with the burn. Moscow is not responding, so probably we're just not getting through. Could you please let them know that everything's fine on board? And thank you so much, guys, for your hospitality. We are doing good. And we'll let the mission control know.
МКС ШУПа Москвы для Сергея Рыжикова слышали их доклад. Импульс отработали до разделения.
MCC Moscow confirms that we did copy your last message and that there will be about 12 minutes till separation.
And a good comprehensive report as Sergei Ryzhikov, the Soyuz commander, talked to Sergei Sverchkov aboard the International Space Station, as well as the flight control team in Korolyov that you see there in this live view from a balcony camera. The report from Ryzhikov indicates that the crew is in great shape, feeling well, and that all of the Soyuz systems are in good shape, as we are about 11 minutes away from the expected time of the module separation, the pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz, enabling the descent module, in which the crew is strapped into their respective seats, to be facing the direction of travel, with the heat shield repelling the buildup of heat and plasma as the Soyuz makes its way through the denser portion of the Earth's atmosphere, heading for its landing site. We are expecting touchdown at 11:03 and 55 seconds p.m. Central Time, some 36 minutes from now. This is Mission Control, Houston. The three returning crew members, NASA's Jonny Kim and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky, are currently about 9 minutes away from the next milestone on the road back to Earth, that being the pyrotechnic separation of the three sections of the Soyuz spacecraft, and some 34 minutes away from their touchdown on the steppe of Kazakhstan on a parachute-assisted landing that is anticipated at 11:03 and 55 seconds p.m. Central Time, which is 10:03 and 55 seconds a.m. Kazakhstan time Tuesday. That is about 2 hours and 6 minutes after sunrise at the landing site. With the departure of the Soyuz vehicle, with the undocking occurring at 7:41 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time this evening, the Expedition 74 increment got underway officially under the command of NASA's Mike Fink, joined on board by NASA's Zena Cardman and Chris Williams, Kimiya Yui of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Kud-Sverchkov, Sergei Mikheyev, and Oleg Platonov. We're about 30 minutes away from our anticipated touchdown of the Soyuz MS-27 on the steppe of Kazakhstan. The Russian Mi-8 helicopters are all airborne from the Zhezkazgan airfield, heading toward the landing site. They will arrive in the vicinity of the landing site shortly before the Soyuz does, forming a racetrack pattern around the site itself, so that they have a clear view of the Soyuz under its orange and white main parachute prior to touchdown, at which point the helicopters will begin to descend fairly rapidly in sequential fashion to allow the technicians from RSC Energia, the search and recovery teams, to begin the work to make sure the vehicle is safe and to begin the process of extracting the crew one by one. We're about 28.5 minutes away from the anticipated landing of the Soyuz MS-27, everything in good shape. Some 3 minutes away from the module separation. That'll be the next milestone that we'll be waiting to receive telemetry on.
Moscow, Favore. We started the separation program. We have controlled descent. We have automatic controlled descent mode. Copy all, Favore. Everything is fine on board. We didn't hear you last. We started separation program. We are ready for separation and everything is fine on board. Copy all. Continue providing running commentary.
And good reports from Sergei Ryzhikov, the Soyuz commander, who's in the center seat of the descent module, flanked to his left by Alexei Zabritsky, and on his right, NASA's Jonny Kim. About 1 minute away from module separation. That module separation, which is imminent here, occurs at an altitude of 87 miles. And telemetry received in the Russian Mission Control Center indicates a good module separation. So the descent module with the 3 crew members strapped into their respective seats, now flying free of the other 2 sections. The heat shield on the descent module with the crew inside facing the direction of travel, as we are less than 3 minutes away from the vehicle and the crew reaching the first traces of the Earth's atmosphere. Time to touchdown, 24 minutes, 45 seconds. This is the point at which the communications from the Soyuz are expected to be choppy and sporadic. Once the vehicle begins what is called entry interface at an altitude of 61.8 miles, the ionization of plasma around the vehicle will begin to build for several minutes, thus blocking communications for the most part. 23 minutes now till touchdown. This is Mission Control Houston, less than 21 minutes from the anticipated landing of the Soyuz MS-27 on the steppe of Kazakhstan, a parachute-assisted landing that brings Jonny Kim of NASA and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky home. All of the events throughout the course of the afternoon and evening have gone perfectly. The entry interface has been reached. Temperatures beginning to build around the spacecraft. This is the area of peak heating on the descent module, with the heat shield obviously repelling that heat. The vehicle and the crew on board should be exiting that plasma regime in about 3.5 minutes. Meanwhile, a half a dozen Rosaviatsa Russian Mi-8 helicopters, including NASA personnel embedded with the search and recovery team, are in transit to the landing site, should be arriving shortly to take up their positions in a racetrack pattern around the landing site, awaiting the arrival of the Soyuz under its large orange and white parachute. Jonny Kim and Alexei Zabritsky coming home, completing their first flights into space, respectively. 245 days in space, 3,920 orbits of the Earth, a journey of almost 104 million statute miles. For Sergei Ryzhikov, this is the completion of his third flight into space, and a total of 603 days away from the planet, good for 13th on the all-time endurance list. This is a low resolution view from the landing site, showing several of the all-terrain vehicles from a drone shot. This is courtesy of Roscosmos. We will be getting additional video as the vehicle is approaching the landing site during its descent, but again, you get the idea. Partly cloudy skies, temperatures about 21 degrees. There is snow on the ground, not considerable amount of snow, but a drone shot of some of the all-terrain vehicles that are part of the Rosaviatsa search and recovery forces. We're at the point of the entry where maximum G loads of about 4 to 5 Gs beginning to build up on the crew. They're about 20 miles in altitude. Their entry guidance on board taking them to the landing site.
Favoria, you're breaking up. We passed re-entry, passed plasma, unintelligible.
Интеграл текущий 320.
Integral is 13.
You heard for just a moment there some communications from the Soyuz.
Type of descent. Automatic controlled descent. 8 seconds is the atmospheric miss. Copy.
Маркер ниже кривой, интеграл 12.
Marker below the curve. Integral is 12. How are you feeling? We are feeling fine. Copy.
Ожидаем через минуту.
Okay, expecting main chute deploy in 1 minute.
And you heard that report from Sergei Ryzhikov. The vehicle is out of the regime of the high heat peaking on the vehicle. The crew is feeling well. We're 15 minutes away from touchdown and just a few seconds away from the anticipated command to open the chutes.
Prepare for main chute deploy.
This is Mission Control Houston, less than 13 minutes before touchdown. We're standing by for confirmation of the deployment of the chutes. All of the descent events for the Soyuz and its 3 crew members have gone normally. Again, we are standing by for confirmation of a nominal chute deploy. The parachutes should have deployed by now, and we are expecting confirmation of that momentarily. The communications, as expected, somewhat sporadic between the Soyuz and the Antonov 26 at the landing site, that is the Flying Command and Relay Station, sending back communications and telemetry to the flight control team that you see there in the Russian Mission Control Center. This is Mission Control Houston. We have received information from the Russian Control Center that the Antonov 26 at the landing site has visual confirmation of the Soyuz under its large orange and white main chute. We're still awaiting video from the landing site, but we do know that the Soyuz is now descending under its parachute, 9.5 minutes until touchdown. And this view of the landing site from a drone, courtesy of Roscosmos, as it pans the area of the landing site. Again, we did receive confirmation that the Soyuz is descending under its main parachute. Everything appears to be going nominally, with 8.5 minutes to go until touchdown. The temperature at the landing site is about 21 degrees, and now we're getting our first view of the Soyuz. Hazy, cloudy skies, but you can see the chute. This is not as clear a view as we're typical accustomed to, but nonetheless, it does show the large parachute, the Soyuz under that chute, descending for a touchdown about 7 minutes and 40 seconds from now, and a view from an aerial drone of some of the all-terrain vehicles moving toward the expected touchdown site. We are expecting landing just a few seconds before 11:04 p.m. Central Time.
Altitude.
Once again, the skies cleared somewhat to allow us these views. Some snow on the ground, temperatures around 21 degrees Fahrenheit, but everything is in good shape as the Soyuz heads for an on-time landing to bring Jonny Kim, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zabritsky back to Earth after 245 days in space. 7 minutes till touchdown.
Космос 697. Информацию приняли?
ПСС, фаворы, высота 3000.
3000 altitude.
Ветерочек у земли не подскажете?
What about the wind?
240 градусов до
340 degrees.
11 принято.
You can hear the beeping of the radio beacon on the Soyuz as it establishes radar contact with the Antonov fixed-wing aircraft. The Russian Mi-8 helicopters now in a racetrack pattern around the landing site as we are less than 6 minutes away from anticipated touchdown.
This is module.
Yes, problem. My ears are... I need to pop my ears. I cannot reach my...
Try to make a, like, how to say, like a drink of water.
I tried.
Now pressure equalization, so
Yeah.
soon would be nice.
Now just 5 minutes away from touchdown. Again, this view of one of the all-terrain vehicles, part of the complement of vehicles supporting the recovery of the Soyuz MS-27 crew, just minutes away from touchdown.
Текущая высота 2000, фаворы.
2000 is the current altitude.
The Soyuz about 2 kilometers above the ground. There is a voice contact between the search and recovery forces and the spacecraft. Everything looking good. 4 minutes until touchdown.
Keep patient, hold on.
Okay. I just don't want to pop.
Так, еще раз подтянемся. Еще раз проверим на коленечки.
One more time, check your knee pads.
Проверил, подтянуто. ПСС, фаворы, высота 1500.
All tightened. The altitude right now is 1500.
Johnny? Yes. A little bit tight. Yes, that's enough.
Several views being provided by Roscosmos. This again a drone video of two of the all-terrain vehicles moving into position near the expected touchdown point.
It's cloudy. I don't see you just yet. What's the altitude? Close to 1,000. Copy.
So about 1,000 meters above the ground now, according to the report from Sergei Ryzhikov. The Russian Mi-8 helicopters are in position, flying over the landing site, as is the Antonov 26 fixed-wing
Check
aircraft.
The prop, please. Excellent.
ПСС фаворы, высота 800, кислород стравился.
800 altitude.
800 meters now off the ground.
We'll report to you the status after landing about the tanks.
Контрольная высота 700 метров.
700 meters. Crew, get ready for landing.
The crew being instructed to brace for landing.
Отлично, молодец, Женя. I got it. Молодец. метров.
500 meters.
Руки скрестили. Hand on body. Yeah. And don't talking. Keep mouth closed.
П-22, даю координаты посадки 47-22, 69-43.
The coordinates of the landing are as follows: 47, 22, 69, 43.
Так, приняли борта.
Did you copy?
Второй наблюдаешь? Не. Стрелочка, видишь, вот над нами развернулась. Да, наблюдаю. Стрелочка. Третью стрелку влево показываю.
Do you see the arrow? It turned. It's to the left.
47-22, 69-43.
The landing coordinates 47, 22, 69, 43. I see it. I turn to the right.
Моторы 429-го. Фавор экипажу поискового самолета.
Tabor 429.
На приеме.
To the rescue aircraft.
Второй-то где?
Догоняю.
Second to one.
This is Mission Control Houston. Although we did not see the landing itself, the search and recovery forces called out landing coordinates. And from that, we have informed the flight director here in Mission Control that the Soyuz MS-27 has in fact landed.
522, close by.
The approximate landing time, 11:03 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time, 12:03 and 30 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, 10:03 and 30 seconds a.m. at the landing site. So we'll call it a landing.
To 429.
And now the search and recovery forces and the Russian Mi-8 helicopters will be moving into position to begin the extraction of the crew once they've ascertained that the vehicle has no hazardous gases. Once again, Soyuz MS-27 has landed. It was a nominal entry. The unofficial landing time, 11:03 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time, 12:03 and 30 seconds a.m. Eastern Time.
Ready to copy and to transmit.
На приеме 697.
Космос запрашивал. Готов передать информацию.
697 is here. Ready to copy.
Понял.
Nothing to transmit just yet. I have the coordinates that you have relayed.
Космос 429.
Cosmos to 429. I don't hear you.
So, Jonny Kim, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zabritsky are home for the holidays after 245 days in space. Having landed 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan, and there you see on the front screen of the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov the Russian words Есть Posadka. They've landed. All of the evening's events, from hatch closure to undocking to the deorbit burn, all of the entry activities and landing went by the book to bring to an end this 245-day mission spanning almost 104 million statute miles. The all-terrain vehicles, including one that contains the ground-based television cameras and their operators, are in the process of making their way toward the spacecraft. Hopefully within a few minutes, they'll reestablish that television view with the search and recovery teams surrounding the capsule, beginning the work to extract the vehicle. The crew inside the vehicle in the descent module, Jonny Kim strapped into the right seat of the descent module. In the middle seat, Sergei Ryzhikov, the Soyuz commander, and in the left seat, Alexei Zabritsky, having completed their 245-day mission with a landing at 11:03 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time, 12:03 and 30 seconds a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday morning. Once again, this view from Roscosmos television showing basically a sweeping pan of the landing site. We did not see the touchdown itself because of the cloudy conditions, but the search and recovery forces did confirm the landing coordinates and confirmed an approximate landing time of 11:03 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time, 12:03 and 30 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. And there you see some of the Russian Mi-8 helicopters that are flying and descending in sequential fashion to assist in the recovery of the 3 crew members. The work now will involve the extraction of the 3 crew members from the descent module. They'll be placed in chairs right by the capsule to allow themselves a few minutes of regaining their land legs and equilibrium. They then will be brought in each of their chairs into a nearby inflatable medical tent to remove their Sokol launch and entry suits, get into more comfortable clothing, and then in turn be brought back to 3 awaiting helicopters, 1 for each crew member, that will take them on a 2-hour flight back to the staging city in Karaganda to the northeast. Jonny Kim will board a NASA plane bound back to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, while Ryzhikov and Zabritsky board a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft for a flight back to their training base in Star City, Russia, outside of Moscow. This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, you're looking at a wide view of the landing site in Kazakhstan, to the southeast of the town of Roscosmos, where the Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft and its 3 occupants, NASA's Jonny Kim and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky, landed at 11:03 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time, 12:03 and 30 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, to complete a 245-day mission aboard the International Space Station. All of the entry and landing activities went perfectly. There were very cloudy conditions at the landing site that prevented us from actually seeing the Soyuz descending under its main parachute or the touchdown itself. But the verbal words from the search and recovery forces flying overhead indicated that they had voice contact as well as visual contact of the Soyuz under the chutes, and confirmed the touchdown coordinates that indicated that the touchdown occurred as planned at 11:03 p.m. Central Time, 12:03 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday. That would have been 10:03 a.m. at the landing site. And here is a video now at the landing site itself, and right by the spacecraft, which has landed on its side, which is typical. So the search and recovery forces are there. They will be now working to begin the process of extracting the crew one by one and placing them in chairs nearby, and then bringing them into an inflatable medical tent. Again, there's your Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft, having been pulled over onto its side after touchdown. The winds are a little bit frisky out there, and temperatures quite frigid, 21 degrees Fahrenheit. There is the hatchway at the top of the Soyuz spacecraft. Again, this is not unusual for a Soyuz to be pulled onto its side following touchdown, depending on the weather conditions and the wind. So, under overcast skies with snow flurries and temperatures around 21 degrees Fahrenheit, the 3 crew members who flew on Expedition 73 are home. They undocked that Soyuz spacecraft from the Prishal module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station at 7:41 p.m. Central Time, almost 4 hours ago, landing about 17.5 minutes ago at 11:03 p.m. Central Time, 12:03 a.m. Eastern Time.
Рядом табура стоять, справа, слева, или там, где ты.
Ну, снимем ручки, давай обработаем.
So members of the search and recovery forces are in the process of working the top hatch of the Soyuz spacecraft to begin the process of extracting the crew. Jonny Kim and Alexei Zabritsky, home after their first flights into space, respectively, 245 days. Sergei Ryzhikov has just completed the third flight in his career and now has logged a total of 603 days in space. The top hatch is open, and members of the technician team peering in to receive flight data file books and to check on the initial condition of the crew before they begin the extraction of the crew members. The chairs that they'll bring the crew to for a few minutes to gain their land legs back, if you will, those have been set up on a tarpaulin just outside of the capsule. The crew probably won't spend very much time in those chairs because of the cold weather out there. They'll be bundled up before they're brought in to a nearby inflatable medical tent to remove their Sokol launch and entry suits, get into more comfortable clothing, and then receive initial medical testing before they're flown back in 3 individual helicopters, one for each crew member, to Karaganda, Kazakhstan, the staging site for today's landing.
Который из 3. Только это не озвучили. Да. Не, а то уходит в эфир, потом начинает. Ага, смотри. А у них эта бригада 6 человек. Это официально. Да.
One of the search and recovery technician team members, having crawled into the upper hatch of the Soyuz vehicle, removing some of the initial equipment from the crew, as well as some of the flight data file books that the crew used for reference during their descent back into the Earth's atmosphere and their parachute-assisted landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan that occurred about 23 minutes ago. And we're expecting now the first of the crew members to be removed from the Soyuz. This should be Sergei Ryzhikov from the center seat of the Soyuz. And in fact, that is the Soyuz commander, Sergei Ryzhikov, out of the Soyuz, 603 days in space, good for 13th on the all-time list.
Нет, не надо. Этот не надо. Не надо. Можно машину летать? Да. Ой, шиповник вообще чудесный.
A good view of the Soyuz commander, Sergei Ryzhikov. The flight control team at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov has confirmed the official landing time now at 11:03 and 33 seconds p.m. Central Time, 12:03 and 33 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. So that landing time that we had estimated earlier was just a couple of seconds off, but that is the landing time.
Здесь что, Серега? А? На машине кречет написано. Только с ним попрощались. Он уже здесь.
96.
Я, может, накрыть на голову? Да нет, пока нормально. Не холодно? Да нет, так... Против не получилось. К вечеру. Вечером? Сейчас будет холодать уже 18. Ну так, нормально все, авиация без проблем. Мы 10 километров перелетели задом это. Ну, ветерком. Да не только ветерок, по-моему, что-то УС там навстречу. Перелетный промах 8. Перегрузка 5,3.
The miss was 8. The G-load was 5 and 3.
Once again, a view of Sergei Ryzhikov, the Soyuz commander.
The control was not
out
ideal.
Of the Soyuz TMA-27.
Headwind or something.
The other two crew members to follow shortly. The Soyuz landed at 11:03 p.m. Central Time, 12:03 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, 10:03 a.m. at the landing site after a flawless departure from the International Space Station,
Jonny had issues with his ear.
and a flawless entry back into the Earth's atmosphere.
На 3 километрах надо было открыть, продуться, быстренько и опять закрыть.
You should have purged at 3 kilometers. Purged and then close it.
Алексей за пакетом уже потянулся. Ну вот, ожидаем.
Alexei started reaching for the bag.
Тут все готово. Насчет
Первый снег сегодня.
Первый снег?
Не было снега.
First snow today.
Посыпал.
There was no snow. We arrived at the airport and it started to snow. It's cold. Let's put a hat on. Is the tent ready? Will be shortly. Let's follow the tradition. Not cold? No, not cold.
So the work continues to extract the other 2 crew members from the Soyuz.
What about this hat with blue and white? That's fine.
Расположилась, не давите.
Чудесно вообще.
Fantastic.
Как ты стал формулировать? Распутать шапку, расположилась. Ну, внимание, короткое интервью.
Attention, please, a short interview.
Кому? Вам отвечать, да?
So do I answer to you? Okay.
Что вы говорите?
Just say something.
Поздравляем всех
What shall I say?
с завершением
Congratulations, everyone, on one more end of a Soyuz vehicle trip.
выполнения программы 73-й экспедиции.
Mission Expedition 73. All tasks completed. The crew are feeling great. Thank you to all the specialists, to all the designers, to everyone involved, to MCC, employees, to scientists, to everyone involved. Thank you to all the families, and thank you to you who are greeting us here. How was the landing? It was a soft landing, as always. We tried to turn you. Yes, you did. You did turn us.
So you heard a few words, the interpreted words of Sergei Ryzhikov answering a few questions from members of the Russian media at the landing site, saying it was a soft landing and the crew is feeling great. The search and recovery teams, the technicians still working to extract the other 2 crew members, Alexei Zabritsky and Jonny Kim.
Ребята, потом чуть-чуть сейчас отойдите, пройти поработать с другими, и потом стреляать, хорошо? Ну, тихонечко. Ну, смотрите, по времени сколько уже прошло. Если хотите работать, работайте.
Just watch the time. The readings are nominal. Everything is fine. It's snowing for the first time, they say, yes. It used to be clear, but for the past 3 days it has been cloudy when we flew by.
Так, все, я тогда ухожу сейчас в палатку, а вы тут тогда поработаете немножко для камеры, а потом там увидитесь. Хорошо? Хорошо. Давайте второй срез.
This video from the landing site is courtesy of Roscosmos, a close-up view of the descent module.
Let's take one more reading.
The only section of the three-section Soyuz vehicle that returns from space. The pyrotechnic separation of the three sections of the Soyuz occurring some 24 minutes after the completion of the deorbit burn that enabled the Soyuz to drop out of orbit for its 54-minute trip back into the Earth's atmosphere to the landing site.
Ребята, опустите там это. Там как раз нагрелось.
They're taking him to the tent, and it's warm in here.
And one of the other crew members being taken directly into the medical tent.
Maybe into the tent? No, no. Traditions are not to be broken. I'll wait for everyone.
So two of the three crew members are now out of the Soyuz vehicle. You still see Sergei Ryzhikov, the Soyuz commander, there. One of the other crew members already inside the medical tent. And
handmade.
One of the people on the scene at the landing site providing a Matryoshka doll, a stacking doll, bearing Ryzhikov's face.
A whole collection,
hand-painted,
one after each flight.
As an offering of congratulations for his return back to Earth.
Да, и потом
Все понял?
Да.
Да. Дали мне? Дали. Я вас с орбиты вез. Нет. Мы же...
Там очень много людей. Нет, ну не достанут, а потом мы подойдем.
Давайте, Джонни, да нет, Джонни, давайте дождем. Нормально. Сколько 4 раскиши может зайдут сами? И сколько места надо? Ну, так, у нас сколько? 7 литературных гостиных. По каждой. По Эву сейчас.
Нет, если...
А есть второе дело? Может, второе дело? Леш, не полный переживай, давай.
Нет, давайте мы это там уберем немножко, поднесем.
Сказали, сейчас достанут. Нет, третьего члена.
После эвакуации.
Сейчас третьего члена экипажа эвакуируют.
С моей стороны не было.
Не было уже, да?
Вы же
Нет,
сказали, вы сломали пароль.
А, нет, это
Высотомер могут пожаловать.
Все нормально? Молодец. Дружище. Чему?
NASA's Jonny Kim, back on Earth after 245 days in space.
Where are our photo and video folks?
So all three crew members now out of the Soyuz vehicle. The Soyuz commander, Sergei Ryzhikov, was first out. He is still sitting in his chair, getting his land legs back. Alexei Zabritsky was taken directly into the medical tent nearby. And there's NASA's Jonny Kim, having completed his first flight into space. Ryzhikov now being brought to the medical tent as well. Kim will follow in just a couple of minutes.
Take a photo with you? Yeah, I'll do the same.
Get the doctor here in a second. There you go.
Ryzhikov fulfilling a long-standing Russian tradition by signing his capsule.
Okay. She knows that you're, awake.
Take care.
Okay. You want your comm cap off or you're good?
Yeah, I'll take it off.
Сколько? Не вижу.
Signing the capsule and the date of its landing, December 9th, Kazakhstan time. And another view, courtesy of Roscosmos, showing Sergei Ryzhikov being brought to the inflatable medical tent. Alexei Zabritsky already in the medical tent. And Jonny Kim having a few minutes to get his land legs back. Still sitting in the chair nearby the Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft that the 3 crew members landed in some 44 minutes ago. And another view of NASA's Jonny Kim. The Soyuz MS-27 landed at 11:03 p.m. Central Time, 12:03 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday morning, December 9th, 10:03 a.m. Kazakhstan time at the landing site, some 91 miles southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan. And the third and final crew member of Soyuz MS-27, Jonny Kim, now being brought to that nearby inflatable medical tent. Right there in the foreground is Dina Kontela, who's the Deputy Program Manager for the International Space Station program. So all 3 crew members now inside that inflatable medical tent. They will be helped out of their Sokol launch and entry suits into more comfortable clothing, and will have an opportunity to be brought to 3 waiting Russian helicopters, 1 for each crew member, that will take them on a 2-hour flight back to the staging city of Karaganda, Kazakhstan. Kim will board a NASA jet with his NASA team members. They will fly back to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, while Alexei Zabritsky and Sergei Ryzhikov board a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft to fly back to their training base in Star City outside of Moscow. So, with a successful on-time landing for the Soyuz MS-27, all 3 crew members out of the spacecraft and in the medical tent, as is the common procedure. It was a perfect undocking and ride home through the Earth's atmosphere for Soyuz MS-27, Jonny Kim, Alexei Zabritsky, and Sergei Ryzhikov. They are home for the holidays, back on Earth after 245 days in space. With that, we'll wrap up our coverage for tonight. Thank you for staying with us, and we wish you all happy holidays throughout the month of December and beyond. You can continue to follow International Space Station activities on our website at nasa.gov and all the other NASA platforms. But for now, we'll sign off. This is Mission Control Houston.